name is Reina Valanco. I'm your host for this episode of the College and Career Readiness podcast. Today we are joined by our special guest, Francis Wang, an ABC10 reporter. Before we start our interview, remember to take control of your future. Join the California Army National Guard and serve your community during local and state emergencies. You'll learn marketable skills, earn a paycheck, and get money for school. Contact Sergeant Aquino today at 916-233-7615. Okay, hi Francis.
Hey.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm a little tired, but I've had 2 cups of coffee and a really good omelet, and I'm in a great mood.
Nice. Okay, could you tell me a little bit about your job?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I report and I also do some anchoring at Channel 10 here in Sacramento. I do everything from covering, protests and rallies to, like yesterday I did a story on a bill that Governor Brown just signed eliminating cash bail from the California bail system. On Monday, I did a story about how a local woman actually has a prisoner of war bracelet that turned out to be John McCain's, which is a huge deal because he just passed away. So it kind of varies. It's kind of cool because I know my shift, right? I go in at 3 and I'm usually done around midnight, but I never know what I'm doing going in. And even as my day progresses, I may think it would start a certain way and then it ends totally different. But that's something I love about my job and what makes it so beautiful. Another thing I really love is just obviously the impact I get to have on this community.
Mm-hmm.
Being someone from here, it's crazy how often I run into people on stories, right? Like I remember when I was covering the freeway protest for Stephon Clark back in March, I ran into so many high school and middle school friends on the freeway and it was like, oh, hey. But moments like that are really special and full circle for me and part of what makes me love reporting specifically here in Sacramento.
That sounds really cool. It's always fun.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to do this career?
Well, I know Miss May talked about this a little bit in class, but, growing up, I didn't see a lot of people who look like me on television. And I've had this dream of being a newscaster since I was 10 years old. Mm-hmm. My mom used to have a hermit crab stand at Art and Fair Mall upstairs by the carousel. And when I'm an immigrant kid, it was very normal for me to be working for my mom at 10 years old instead of, doing after school stuff like the other kids. That's what I had to do. And I watched the newscast every day. KCRA had a studio right next to my mom's kiosk. And this is before middle schoolers had cell phones. I had nothing to do but to watch the news. And one day, one of the anchors, Walt Gray, interviewed me. And I thought to myself, this is the coolest thing ever. You get to be on TV. You get to talk to people you don't know. You get to go up to strangers. Obviously, it's so much more than that. And I've learned that in my career. But that's how that dream started. Now, I never thought it would actually happen because I never saw people who looked like me on television, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was blonde hair, blue-eyed, and I'm like, I don't look like that. It's not going to happen for me. And as time has changed, we're starting to see more representation of different minority groups, whether you're Black, Asian, or Hispanic, or even LGBTQ. Crazy Rich Asians is the first movie featuring an all-Asian American cast in 25 years. That is insane and totally not okay. So, seeing representation on the big screen and on TV, whether it's just your local news reporter, I feel is so important. And whenever young Asian American or just kids coming up to me in general saying this is what they want to do, I always have them take a picture with the microphone and I tell their parents, when your kid ends up doing this, send this to me. Find out where I am, send me an email, and I want to see your kid grow up and go for that dream. So that is also a huge part of my job. That's not what you see on TV. That's more behind the scenes. But I also think that's really important.
That's amazing. Our community is so very diverse.
Yes.
We have a lot of diversity in a whole bunch of different ways, race, age, sexuality, a whole bunch of
That's what I
stuff.
love about Sacramento, right?
Uh-huh. And it's cool that you get to pioneer that,
Yeah, to put it into perspective, you'll go to an event, an 18 and under event or whatever you
Yeah.
guys go to downtown, and you see people from all different high schools, and it's almost weird in a beautiful way, right? You're like, whoa, how do you know that person? You would never connect those two. But it doesn't matter your race or your background or where you're from or how much money you make or your parents make. In a way, I feel in Sacramento, it brings people together in a way that I've never seen anywhere else.
So in addition to representation, what obstacles have you faced throughout your journey?
Ooh. Well, to be honest, I was the smart kid in high school who got in a lot of trouble, right? I went to St. Francis, and there were some really strict rules. I almost got suspended for cell phone violations, which is crazy to think about now because cell phones are a part of your learning or iPads or whatever. But at the time, you couldn't have a cell phone on campus even during lunch or passing periods. And so I think I struggled with feeling the rules were really hard for me to follow for some reason, and I was never that by the book kid, and I was always a little loud or a little distracting. I was the kid who got put in the corner because the teachers worried I distracted other kids. I still got good grades because at home I had a really strict Chinese mother who insisted I needed to get straight A's or whatever. So I think I kind of struggled with feeling like I was always in trouble, or I could never like, make it because I wasn't by the book, and I'm not this super like, good evening, I'm Frances Wang, And it's beautiful to see, like, as I'm progressing in this career, that's not what people want, because that's not relatable. No one wants this perfect, like, in a box newscaster or student or whatever. Like, what makes us stand out is what makes us stand out. And I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I'm learning how to embrace it and realizing how important it is. But that was definitely an obstacle, accepting my extra and going with it.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously it's shown in your like reports and stuff. They're very interesting. You get to see your own personality, which is really cool.
Yeah, and even though I love doing fun stuff, happy stuff, I'm just a really emotional person, right? And when I do a devastating, heartbreaking story, I find a lot of fulfillment in that, because a lot of times, we're helping someone raise money for a medical bill, or we're raising awareness to something that has been a huge problem in our society. And so I really take a lot of pride, and I really focus and think those stories are important too, not just the fun stuff, but the sad stuff, right? And for me, obviously you see me like big personality, like kind of goofy, like fun, but I can also be serious and empathetic and understanding and passionate in a different way. So for me, I think it's just more about being authentic in whatever that moment is.
In the United States Army and Army Reserve, leadership is earned every day. In addition to earning leadership, you can earn up to $80,000 towards your college degree. For more information, contact Staff Sergeant Kum at 916-214-6457.
That's cool. So in your job, it seems like you have developed like a really wide skill set. Are there any areas that you feel you could still improve in, or anything that you feel like I need to grow in this way?
Yeah, well, I feel like the cool thing about what I do, and just as a human being, like I feel like I'm always trying to learn. It's so funny because I feel like in school you're always like, if I can get out of this homework assignment, or I don't want to read this book all the way. But the older you get, especially when you're out of college and you're not going to a classroom every day anymore, you crave that experience of knowledge and learning. And we get that in different ways, right? Whether you like to read, or you like to have coffee or lunch with someone that you don't really know that well, or you have no common interest at all. I definitely think that that's something that I'm working on, just growing like kind of fully as a person, not just in my job, but as a human being, and figuring out internally what makes me happy.
So, your job.
Well, we can deep, girl.
Okay.
Well, speaking of college and career readiness, right? Back to school. I feel like up until you graduate from college, you feel like you're defined by external factors, right?
Yeah.
Like, did you make the cheer team or the basketball team? Are you getting good grades? Do your teachers like you? Are you getting good report cards and progress reports sitting home? Like, you're so focused on all those outside things, people telling you you're good enough, right? Did you get into that college where your grade's good enough, extracurricular is good enough? And once you're out of that, like out of college, and I think this is important to tell kids at a young age, you start to find that fulfillment and satisfaction from not outside factors, but what's like within. Speaking of, that's something I've learned since college too.
That's really cool. It seems like this career is like perfect for you.
Right? It's weird. I feel so blessed because I have so many friends who went to USC with me, and just friends from high school who are still figuring out what they love to do and how they can turn that into like a feasible and financially stable career. And it's really difficult, right? Like, we all have different dreams, and not everyone's going to get great grades, but that's fine. Like, you can excel in other ways. And I think that's also important to learn. Like, obviously, we're at a college and career readiness. Like, you should get good grades, I think, in high school and even college, because you want those options, right? As you're figuring it out, you never want your grades or whatever to be a reason someone tells you no.
Yeah.
So even if you don't necessarily want to go to a certain school or do a certain career path, you want to have that option in case later on you decide. So I think that's also really important.
Yeah. So speaking of school, you said you got your undergraduate at USC. What exactly was that major? And like, what was your pathway to get from college to obviously ABC10? That's like pretty big.
Thanks. So I went to USC. That was not my first choice.
Yeah.
My mom, again, super tiger mom. Like, she wanted me to go to an Ivy League, right? And I didn't want to leave California. So the dream school, or so I thought, was Stanford. I got waitlisted, and I did everything I thought I could. I had a super high GPA, great test scores, super involved, but I didn't get in, right? And I remember being devastated. Now, I got into UC Berkeley, UCLA, and USC, which were all good schools, but by my mom's Chinese standards, like, they were like, whatever, right? So when I told her I wanted to go to USC, it was not a school she had heard of. was very expensive. It was private school, but I ended up getting scholarships and financial aid. And something important too is I feel like everyone aims for those big scholarships. There's so many little scholarships out there that no one applies for or people don't know about, and they just end up going to waste. So I definitely, for me, I looked for those smaller scholarships that kind of added up to something bigger. But yeah, definitely so back to the mom thing. I went to USC, got my BS in business administration, and then my BA in communications. So I took an extra course every year so I could graduate with 2 degrees in 4 years. But it was so worth it because I pleased my mom because she was the one paying. And I followed my passion of what I wanted to do. So I feel like it was a win-win.
That's really cool.
Although I'm not really putting those business skills to use, but who knows? Maybe one day.
So how did you, so you were originally
I got back to ABC10.
Yeah.
So there was a giant media corporation. It was called Gannett at the time. It's now called Tegna. They owned USA Today and like 40 plus TV stations across the country. One of their corporate recruiters came to USC, and I'm sure you guys have like high school or college recruiters and different career people come to your school all the time.
Yeah,
those are important.
interview them all the time.
Right. Like, do not take those for granted, because this was just like a reception I went to. Really hit it off with the recruiter, and she was like, I want you in the company. Like, you're exactly what we're looking for. Now, I didn't have experience. I looked young. I sounded young. When I showed you guys my sizzle reel today, but when I watched the one from college, I cringe. And I'm not far away from it enough to show it to people without being able to laugh, okay? It was too soon. It wasn't that long ago. So I need to wait for like another 10 years or something. It was so embarrassing, but clearly she saw something in me, and she brought me into the company, and I was able to start at a station in Spokane, Washington. It's market 72, 73. But it was very much with the intention of, hey, Francis, like, you're not experienced, but we see potential in you. Work hard, do well, and we know you're from Sacramento, and we can move you home sooner than you think. So I signed a 2-year contract, because we have contracts, right? And after a year, they were like, you're doing great. Sacramento's interested. Let's get you home. So it was technically a promotion in the company.
Wow.
So that's when I came to Sacramento. That was July 2015.
Okay.
Good times.
July 2015, though.
October 2015.
Oh, okay. That was about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So you talk about that like it was a long time
I love
ago.
podcasts.
Yeah. It doesn't seem that long ago.
No.
No.
It's weird because I feel like I've done so much that it feels like, it's been a long time. Like, I can name maybe 2 or 3 big stories that I'll always remember, right? And then there's the ones like in between that like you may forget until someone brings it up. But I just feel like I've done so much.
Yeah, so you're totally not that far off from us at all.
I'm not that much older. Oh,
no, you're not. You're not.
I'm not 30 yet. I'll say that.
Oh, okay. So, here, like, we are big on mentorship, and we want to be able to look up to people. So you being experienced, what is some like mentor-ish advice that you could give to someone looking into this? What's the best way you feel that you can enter this occupation?
Well, I think it's really exciting for you guys because you guys were kind of brought up in the age of like digital media, right? Like, how old were you when you got Snapchat or Instagram or a smartphone?
11.
Right. You're so used to it, and the scrolling and the posting, it just comes so naturally to you guys. Now with me, it comes naturally, but not as much as it does to you, right?
Yeah.
And someone 4 years older than me might say the same thing to me. It's so crazy to see the difference in digital and technology use just like every 2 years. For example, like I didn't have Instagram when there was prom, but now you guys, it's changed prom, So I think for you, what is so exciting at this age is what everyone else is trying to figure out, which is the executives and the people who are making the decisions. They're trying to understand your behavior, and it's something that you've already mastered. So I think it's really important to be kind of honed in on all of that, but take up all the skills that you're learning in the broadcast class, like learning how to edit, learning how to shoot, learning how to write. Like, that is so important. That plus that traditional skill set that you're learning in these broadcast journalism classes in college, that plus your already natural skills of social media, I think will take you so far. And all of you will definitely be the innovators of where this industry goes.
That's really cool. So also, just prior to you getting this job, did you already know how to do all that editing stuff? Because I know personally, I don't really know how to do all that. But somebody who's like really looking into your career might also be in the same situation. Did you know how to do that already, or did you have to learn it?
I started learning more in college, just kind of like how you guys are learning in Miss May's class. I'm not the best editor. There are definitely people better than me, but it's a always learning process, right? Like, I can do the basics. I can make great birthday videos, like I mentioned to a class, But are we good?
Oh, you're
okay.
fine.
But definitely it's something that you're always, if you're not 100% great at it, don't sweat it. Just continue growing and continue getting better. And if you have a friend who's picking it up quicker than you are, like, look at what they're doing, you know? I think when you're younger, you think like, oh, she's a copycat or whatever. But when it's something like this, I think that's a skill to be shared.
That's cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Frances.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me. Hey,
Hope you had a
follow
good
me,
time.
Frances Wang TV, FRANCES Wang TV.
Make sure to follow her on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, and Facebook. But you guys aren't on Facebook. Tell your parents to follow me on Facebook.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Get the skills to be a beauty professional. We offer hands-on training alongside creative artists and industry leaders in a fully equipped modern salon through our cosmetology, barbering, and aesthetics program. Call 916-418-7223 or visit federico.edu and start your new career today.